Now, the election of this young, charismatic, populist leader, elevated to office on the promise of, well, finally getting Ukraine's act together, felt like a real opportunity. Now, of course, Vladimir Putin didn't much like this idea. He didn't want to see Ukraine get its act together. Putin preferred that Ukrainians' experience with democracy had been riddled with corruption and disappointment. Plus, he saw this new Ukrainian leader as inexperienced, in way over his head. The guy used to be a comedian, for God's sake. A perfect opportunity to squeeze Ukraine for new concessions like ceding Crimea and eastern territories to Russia and swearing off alliances with the West. This was a moment when what Ukraine really needed was its biggest, strongest partner, the United States, to step up and say that Ukraine and its new president had the full backing and respect and support of the United States, that the U.S. stood with Ukraine and with Zelenskyy against any Russian aggression. But that's not what Ukraine's new president got. Ukraine's new president, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, got Donald Trump. Trump refused to invite Zelenskyy to the White House for a show of solidarity that the new Ukrainian leader so desperately wanted. Trump and his allies instead pushed a conspiracy theory, actually a bit of Russian disinformation, that Ukraine had interfered in the 2016 U.S. election, not Russia. Remember that? Rudy Giuliani led an effort to manufacture dirt in Ukraine on Trump's political opponents. When the American ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, was perceived as a roadblock to that project precisely because she was such a staunch opponent of the corrupt figures in Ukraine who were helping Giuliani spin up this dirt, they trashed Yovanovitch's reputation. Donald Trump ultimately removed her. And of course, there was the infamous phone call in which that Trump made military aid to Ukraine contingent upon Zelenskyy doing Trump a favor, announcing investigations into Joe Biden and his son. Trump froze congressionally approved military aid to Ukraine to pressure him. All of this, of course, resulted in Donald Trump's first impeachment, but we tend to see Trump's Ukraine debacle in terms of its domestic political consequences in America. The consequences for Ukraine were far more serious. What Ukraine needed was for Trump to support its new untested, uncorrupt president on the world stage, so he was taken seriously by his neighbors, including Russia, and by his fellow citizens, so that he could be the real leader he needed to be in fending off Vladimir Putin. Instead, Donald Trump chose to try to leverage the situation for his own political gain. And for President Zelenskyy, having that military aid frozen, having the President of the United States try to shake him down, well, that cost Zelenskyy in terms of power. It cost him in terms of respect. It cost him in terms of his authority against Vladimir Putin. And who can say what it might end up costing him now that he is in a war that may come down to a matter of small degrees here and there? Back then, in 2019, when Zelenskyy called Trump, there was an opportunity for the American president to stand behind Ukraine, an opportunity to do better. Donald Trump didn't take it.